So you're trying to get more space in New York City. Now, maybe you're moving to New York City for the first time, or maybe you're just sick and tired of having no room in your apartment and you need an upgrade. So I don't have the best news for you in this video because there really is no magic hack real estate agents use to get their clients more space because it's very hard to come by here, especially if you're in Manhattan. So if we're talking about outer boroughs, other places outside of New York City, then it is doable. It's way more doable than it is in Manhattan. Now, it's not that every apartment in Manhattan has no space. Trust me, I see tons with tons of space, but you have to pay a price for it. And no matter what neighborhood you're in, you're pretty much always paying a price for space. So if you want an apartment that is somewhat affordable, you have to avoid prime neighborhoods that everybody wants to be in. You just do. Because people are willing to pay to live in that neighborhood and are willing to sacrifice space just so they can be in that neighborhood and be in that prime area. So what do I mean by this? Any of the villages, so the Village, West Village, East Village, any of those are gonna probably not be the best for space. I say probably not because there are always exceptions to the rules, and somebody is gonna be watching this video and they're gonna have an apartment with this amazing space and they're gonna be like, but look, Lauren, look at what I have, like you're wrong. And I am wrong sometimes. I completely am wrong sometimes. And there are always going to be exceptions to the rule. But for the most part, if somebody's coming from a suburban town and they are used to having a ton of space and they make it clear to me that they need space and don't care about the neighborhood that much, I would never bring them to any of those neighborhoods because I would be like, okay, we're gonna have to look at other places where you could potentially get more space. Now, I would say that downtown in general is just not the best for space. There's give and take. I would say there's definitely gonna be give and take, but at the same time, you're primarily gonna be looking at uptown is definitely gonna have a little bit more space. If you're going to upper Manhattan, like Harlem and north of that is definitely going to have space for sure. So it really does depend. Midtown, it can really, really vary in both Midtown East and Midtown West and all those neighborhoods combined in there. It really does vary. But I would say that if you are really, really, really set on living in the New York City area, but want to have a certain amount of space or want to have 2 bedrooms and you can't afford 2 bedrooms in Manhattan, then your best bet is going to be to go to one of the outer boroughs or even go to Jersey City or Hoboken. I always say that those are basically like the 6 boroughs of New York City anyway. So if you go to Brooklyn, if you go to Queens, like say like Astoria, Long Island City, or really a lot of different neighborhoods in Brooklyn. We can go to Williamsburg, East Williamsburg, Greenpoint, Dumbo, downtown Brooklyn, Brooklyn Heights. All of those areas are literally only going to be like, honestly, like a few minutes outside of the city, depending on where you're trying to go in the city. But you can get to the city for the most part within 15 minutes. Now, I know there's train delays and bus delays and all those things. I get it. But for the most part, from any of those neighborhoods, you can pretty much get into the city within like 15, 20 minutes. So I think that you have to take a hard look at like, what do you care more about, space or neighborhood? Do you care about living in a certain neighborhood, or are you much happier having a good amount of space where you can spread out all your stuff and work from home in your apartment or something like that, right? And it's also okay if that answer is different at certain times of your life. That's completely natural and that happens all the time. So I wish I had a better magical answer for you in this video, but I honestly do not. And I think another thing that also makes it very, very frustrating in New York City is that you might have noticed if you've ever looked at apartments online that co-ops do not require the square footage of the apartment to be publicized. So if you're looking at a co-op listing on your phone and you're wondering and you're trying to figure out where's the square footage, how come I cannot see the size of this apartment? They don't have to put it there. So from a real estate agent perspective, this is very, very frustrating and I understand, but it is something that I want you to be aware of because you might be trying to figure out the size of the apartment and you're like, wait a second, I can't even find the answer to that. So that's another frustrating thing about Manhattan. So what are your workarounds with this? So sometimes people do put it on a listing by accident or sneak it in somewhere so they do make that public information, but most of the time you're not going to be able to find it. And what you can do is sometimes there'll be a floor plan, so you can calculate square footage based off a floor plan. I know it's really frustrating. Or you can, if there is no floor plan, you can ask if the agent, homeowner, landlord, whoever you're talking to could provide a floor plan if they have one. Typically, if it's not listed online, they might not have a floor plan, but they should have one listed because it's extremely common to be able to get a floor plan in New York City real estate. So that shouldn't be a problem. Now, what are some other solutions? I guess some other solutions would be really just 2 things. Storage. So there are some buildings that do actually have storage in the building. Some of them give it for free, which is pretty rare, but that does happen. And then some of them it'll be like a monthly, like a little storage fee price that you could pay if you want like a storage cage or something like that somewhere in the building. Now you have that option. Storage units also. Honestly, there's a lot of really good solutions nowadays for companies that will literally take things that you want to store. They'll literally come grab it and put it in the storage unit for you. So that's like, those companies have been popping up left and right over the past like 5 years. So that's another option. And then the next option is really going to be just like getting really creative with storage in your apartment. Now, I really do say say that living in Manhattan makes you become way more organized or a minimalist than you've ever probably been before. So I'm not naturally the most organized person, but living in Manhattan has actually made me become like, I would say like more of like a minimalist. Now, people who are really hardcore minimalists would be like, no, you're absolutely not a minimalist, Lauren, like what are you talking about? But compared to like what I was, like, so I'm at the point in my life where I'm like, do I need this item in my life? Will it make my life better, or will it just clutter up my apartment? If it's clutter up my apartment, it goes. So it does really kind of make you become more aware of the things that you own, and also just become more organized of a person in general. So I know that this video is not providing you with the best answer, but it's honestly just the truth. So I wish there was insider secrets for real estate agents, but we really don't have one. So if you can share your stories or hacks on ways to stay organized, I would love to hear it, because as always, I love hearing from you guys in general.